What if the person promised you forever was already planning your goodbye? Portland, Maine, 4:18 p.m. The sunlight spilled across Commercial Street as Scarlett Vaughn stepped out of a small bakery holding 2 lemon sodas and a paper bag of cinnamon rolls. One was for her. The other was for William. Nobody looking at her that afternoon would have guessed she was walking into the final normal hours of her life. Last known afternoon. Her phone buzzed again. William, don't forget our promise tonight. Scarlett smiled at the message. She always saved his texts, even the simple ones, especially the simple ones. A cold breeze drifted in from the harbor while traffic crawled past the sidewalks of Portland, Maine. People laughed outside restaurants. Boats rocked quietly in the marina. Everything around her looked painfully ordinary. And somehow, that would later become the terrifying part. 6 hours before disappearance, Scarlett stopped at a local market before heading home. Security footage later showed her standing near the flower aisle for nearly 4 minutes, staring at white tulips without touching them. Investigators would eventually replay that footage over and over, because moments later, she received a phone call that changed everything. And after that call, people noticed something about Scarlett that nobody could explain. She stopped smiling. What did William say during that phone call that made Scarlett suddenly go quiet? 4:42 p.m. Witnesses later remembered Scarlett standing outside the market entrance, gripping her phone without moving, not crying, not speaking, just listening. The call lasted 3 minutes and 11 seconds. When it ended, Scarlett slowly placed the white tulips back onto the shelf and walked out empty-handed. That tiny detail would later disturb her sister more than anything else, because Scarlett loved flowers, especially before important nights. Why did she look afraid? At 5:03 p.m., Scarlett sent Nora a message. Promise me you'll answer if I call later. No explanation, no emojis, nothing else. It was the last completely normal text anyone ever received from her. And less than an hour later, Scarlett's phone stopped replying entirely. Why would Scarlett leave dinner early? After waiting weeks for that night? Portland Harbor, 6:21 p.m. The restaurant overlooked the water. Families laughed nearby. Silverware clinked against plates. And across the table, William barely touched his food. Stella Morris, the server working that evening, later told investigators something felt painfully off between them. Not anger, not shouting, something quieter. Scarlett kept rubbing the edge of her paper napkin until it tore apart in her hands. Witness detail. At 6:47 p.m., Scarlett excused herself to the restroom. Security footage showed her standing alone near the hallway mirror, staring at her phone with tears forming in her eyes. Then she typed a message, deleted it, typed again, deleted that too. 3 minutes later, she returned to the table pretending everything was fine. But William suddenly asked for the check. And what happened after they walked out of that restaurant would become the most disputed timeline in the entire case. What happened inside William's truck? During the 18 minutes nobody could explain. Last seen together, traffic cameras captured William's dark pickup leaving the harbor district. Scarlett sat in the passenger seat holding the untouched bag of cinnamon rolls on her lap. She never made it home. That was the terrifying part. Because according to William, he dropped her off safely. But the timeline didn't match. At 7:19 p.m., Nora called Scarlett. No answer. At 7:22 p.m., the phone briefly connected to a tower nearly 14 miles away from Scarlett's apartment. Wrong direction. Wrong route. Wrong story. Meanwhile, Faith Monroe noticed something unsettling across the street that evening. Scarlett's apartment light never turned on. And for the first time in 2 years, the hallway outside her door stayed completely silent. Why did William's truck appear near the waterfront? After he claimed he was already home, Detective Jeffrey Collins replayed the traffic footage for the 5th time. That's when he noticed it. A dark pickup passing through an industrial road near the Portland docks at 7:41 p.m. William had never mentioned that route. Not once. Main suspect, William Harper, Then another detail surfaced. Austin Miller, the gas station clerk working nearby that evening, remembered William stopping for paper towels and bottled water. But Scarlett never stepped out of the truck. Not even once. Investigators checked the receipt timestamp. 7:46 p.m. Nearly 30 minutes after William claimed Scarlett was home safely. And suddenly, his entire story began collapsing in real time. Why would William erase one message if Scarlett had already made it home safely? Brooklyn Hale recovered deleted phone activity from William's device. One message had been removed 11 minutes after Scarlett vanished. But investigators restored part of it. And the unfinished sentence changed everything. "I can't keep pretending after what you." The rest was gone. Then detectives uncovered another detail William failed to explain. His truck had been professionally cleaned the morning after Scarlett disappeared. Receipts confirmed it. Vacuum, seat shampoo, interior wipe down, everything. Meanwhile, Scarlett's brother Joshua sat inside her apartment staring at the untouched cinnamon rolls still resting on the kitchen counter. The bag had never even been opened. And suddenly, the family realized Scarlett never came home that night at all. What if the final person Scarlett trusted was the reason she never came back? Investigators discovered Scarlett's body near an abandoned shoreline outside Portland. William Harper was arrested 3 days later after GPS data, deleted messages, and surveillance footage destroyed his timeline completely. During questioning, he finally confessed the argument inside the truck turned violent after Scarlett threatened to leave him for good. Case closed. But the detail that broke Scarlett's family wasn't the confession. It was what Nora found inside Scarlett's apartment afterward. The 2 lemon sodas are still sitting beside the unopened cinnamon rolls. One for Scarlett, one for William, a loving promise that never made it home. And ever since then, Nora says she still can't walk past a bakery without thinking about her sister's final afternoon. Subscribe to The Veil of Secret for more emotional true crime stories that reveal how ordinary moments can turn into unforgettable tragedies.